want to find that drive and focus that has you locked in and on fire every single day, my book, The Mirror of Motivation, will do it for you. I bought a copy for you. You take care of the shipping. The book is free. Click the link down there. I got you. You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves you to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Putting all this together, what you get is the mindset, the method, the philosophy, the book, the show known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic, today we're talking the levels of consequences. This is an idea that I heard from reading Ray Dalio's book called Principles that I mentioned a couple days ago. And he talks about the orders of consequences, which is what we're going to talk about here today. In that book, Principles, I talked it up well enough in that previous episode. And anyone who likes what you hear here on Work on Your Game, you will like what you hear on Principles. It's not like we have all the same background. Obviously, the background is very different. Ray is a middle-aged white guy from, I believe he's from Long Island, and his background is in finance. So there's a lot different from what my background is, but a lot of the principles that he shares there, I found a lot of similarities between the ideas that he has and a lot of the stuff that I've shared here on this show. So if you want to learn about some things, some practical life principles that apply across disciplines, of course you're getting it here, but you also can get more of it through that book. Again, it's called Principles by Ray Dalio. So as we get into today's topic, again, the topic is the levels of consequences. And what you're going to understand about the levels of consequences is this is about when you take certain actions or you make certain decisions. It's not just the immediate gratification, if you want to call it gratification. It may be something that you don't want, something that you do want. The consequence, gratification that you get from that action, there are levels to it. There's the first level of what immediately happens. Then there's another level after that. Then there's a level after that. And we're going to talk about at least the first three levels of those today. The levels of consequences of any action that you take, whether it be something that you wanted to do, something that you didn't want to do, something that you wanted to do in the moment, but later on you realize you shouldn't have did it, or vice versa. Something you didn't want to do in the moment, but you do it anyway. Then later on you realize, oh, this was a good decision. I'm glad I did this. Or maybe something that you're kind of ambivalent about. You're kind of in the middle about it, even still like you were at the beginning. That's what we're going to talk about here today. So you can start factoring these principles, these ideas into your decision-making process and into your action-taking process moving forward in your life. So again, the topic, the levels of consequences. Point number one, first level of consequence is what you actually have to do. So if you're thinking about doing something, somebody tells you to do something, you have it written on your calendar or on your to-do list that you have to do something, you wake up a certain day and you know is the day that you have to do that thing, the day you're supposed to do something. Maybe you want to, maybe you don't. The first level of consequence of any action that we take is the act of actually doing it. So let's flesh this out and let's use something that everyone would understand. Let's talk about someone wants to get in shape. You want to get in physically good shape. So the first level of consequence of what you have to do is what? That you actually have to go to the gym, or you have to put on your sneakers and go outside and jog, or you have to ride your bicycle, or you have to go to that boot camp class, or you have to actually work with the trainer or hire the trainer and actually do the workouts. The first level of consequence after you've already done the things to set it up. So we're assuming that you already have the gym membership, you already paid the trainer, you already went to Lululemon and you bought the workout gear. You already went on Nike.com and ordered yourself some sneakers. You already went on Instagram and found yourself a trainer to go to their boot camp class in the park. You already did the setup. The first order is you actually have to take the action. So whatever that thing is. Now, again, this could be a positive or something that we consider to be positive, or something that we're not too thrilled about, something we're not too excited about. Some people are really excited about going to the gym every day. It might be the highlight of your day. And there's some people who hate going to the gym every day. It might be the low light of your day. But usually, I mean, if you know what you're doing the right thing, or you're working with someone who knows what they're doing, usually in the end, you probably end up saying this is a good idea. Or maybe you don't, depending on what you do. We're going to get to that as we move on. But this first step and the levels of consequences is that you actually will have to take the action. The thing about taking the action is that you're committing. That's the thing about this first level of consequence. You have to make a commitment, because for those of you who are not familiar with the term opportunity cost, that is everything that you're not doing every time you commit to doing something. So the opportunity cost of reading a book is that you're not reading a magazine. And the opportunity cost of reading one particular book is that you're not reading another book, at least in that exact moment that your eyes are on the pages of book A, whatever that book happens to be. The opportunity cost of going to sleep is that you're not awake and out at the club, or you're not talking to one of your friends, or you're not browsing through the social media feed on your phone. The opportunity cost of going to your job is that you're not at home, and so forth and so on. Anytime that you commit to doing one thing, you are also decommitting or not committing. Let's just say you're not decommitting because you didn't initially make the commitment, hopefully, to multiple things at the same time. You are also not able to commit to doing other things because you're doing that one thing. And as of right now, as of this recording today, it is not possible for a human being to be physically in more than one location at the same time. So every time we make a commitment, this first level of consequence is all these things that we're also, these investments that we have to make. The investment of being in this one place, not being in these other places. The investment of the actual action that we have to take. This first consequence of anything that we want, in taking this action, we have to put the time in, whatever time is required for this action, the energy required for it, the attention we have to put on it, the focus that we have to give to it. If we're going to do it any level of well, we have to be at least somewhat focused on it. Maybe some money that we have to invest. If you're going to get in shape, it's going to cost you some money somewhere. Either you're paying the trainer, you're paying the gym, you're paying the workout app, you're paying the clothing store that's going to provide you the athletic gear that you're paying for. Probably money somewhere. And of course, as I said, the opportunity cost of everything that you're not doing. So all of these things, before you take an action, you should consider this first order of consequences. Am I ready to do all of these other things? So yeah, maybe you want the end result, which we're going to get to later, such as being in great shape or having six-pack ab muscles or getting rid of the extra 30 pounds of fat you put on since high school. Maybe you do want that, but you haven't done anything yet. So understand that the first thing you're going to have to do is commit to all of these things and these investments that you're going to have to make in order to get that outcome. You can't skip this level. It's impossible to skip this. Again, as of today, when I'm recording this, it's impossible to skip this level of consequence. You do actually have to do the action, and as you're doing that action, there's all these other actions that you can't be doing, and there's an investment that comes just with the action itself. So as long as you're okay with that, then we can move on to level 2. Today's topic, once again, is the levels of consequences. The second point, second level of consequences in anything that you do in life is the results that you get. So we're jumping ahead here. So we're going to assume that the actions that you take are actually producing the kind of results that you want, or at least if you're following what you're supposed to follow, you're following the protocol, you're doing what the trainer told you in the gym, you're eating what you're supposed to be eating and not eating what you're not supposed to be eating. You follow the script, you follow the strategy, you bought a online course, you did what the course actually told you to do, and hopefully the trainer was giving you good information. So assuming that everything that you were given, everything that you were told is the proper information, the second level of consequences are the actual results of that action. Now I want you to consider, even though the topic is levels of consequences, this again can go either direction. Things that you want, things that you don't want. So if that first action that you took, you committed to taking some action that maybe could be questionable looking back on it, the results that you get could be, now you got to pay for that decision. Now you got to deal with somebody who's mad at you because you did something that put somebody else in a bad space. Now you got to deal with your customers being mad at you because you messed up some product or service that they had already paid for. Now you got to deal with your kids being mad at you because you missed the soccer game. Now you got to deal with your boss being mad at you because you didn't finish that work because you decided on level 1 to take a 2-hour lunch instead of taking a 1-hour lunch. So the results that you get could be something that you want, could be something that you don't want, but every action that we take has a result. We all agree that every action will have an equal and opposite reaction. Everything that we do today, we're going to pay for sometime in the future. Maybe immediately, maybe tomorrow, maybe 10 years down the line. But we all, again, understand that the energy that we put out and the actions that we take will produce a return effect. They will produce a karmic effect, the return of the energy we put out, the actions that we take, the thoughts that we think, the words that we use, all of these things. So the results that we get is that second level. So if we go back to our getting in shape example that we're using here, you may get, as this second level, you may get soreness the next day after you work out, or maybe after every single workout. You're going to feel fatigue maybe at the beginning, which eventually over time, even though that fatigue and that soreness may not be so enjoyable when it's happening in the moment, eventually, as long as you're able to keep going through it, you get through the third days and you get through it, eventually that's going to give rise to what? health. Your body's going to be in better shape. Your arteries will last longer. Your heart doesn't have to work as hard. You're breathing a whole lot more easily. You can get up a couple flights of steps without being out of breath and needing to sit down, needing a glass of water. Eventually it gives rise to better health, maybe a more impressive looking body by your estimation, higher level of energy, your muscles are stronger, you have a higher level of self-esteem because you know that your body feels better, you physically feel better, your mind is feeling better, you notice that people are noticing your changes in physique, you notice that people are just noticing that you look better physically than you looked before, so you start feeling better about yourself. Maybe admiration from people who saw you before you got in shape and they notice that your body is changing, notice that you're getting in better shape, and they start pointing it out like, man, whatever you're doing, you need to keep doing it. So all these things can lead to better, you just feeling better mentally about yourself because you see other people noticing the difference in you. So all of these are part of the results that you get. Notice that results is 2 parts. Usually if we're doing something that's worthwhile to us, something that is really going to have an impact on our lives, there's a dip and then there's an upswing in the actions that we take. The dip is we got to put in that time, that effort, the energy. We got to put in the work. And not always when we're putting in work for something that we want is it always going to be fun. Not always is going to be so enjoyable. And not always are we 100% sure that we're going to actually get the result. So these are things that, again, you have to consider. And it could be on either end of the spectrum. So for example, when you're trying to get in shape, you're going to have to take the actions of going to the gym, working out, following the class, listening to the trainer, doing that extra set of push-ups, doing that extra mile when you're out running, not eating the food that you really want to eat, going to bed feeling kind of hungry because you didn't eat that extra meal that you were used to eating for the last 6 years before this. So you're on a kind of a downswing. You may not feel mentally so great about this. You're like, man, I got to make all these sacrifices, do all this extra stuff. I don't really feel like doing this. You may not feel too good about it. But if you're able to fight through that, which is, if you are listening between the lines, this is the 3rd day. If you're able to fight through that mindset or fight through those thoughts, we want to say it's a mindset because it's not set. These are just thoughts that may come and go in your mind depending on how long you allow them to stay there. If you can get through those thoughts, eventually you get to the 4th day. And what happens on the 4th day, which I believe is episode 907. I may be inaccurate on that, but go into the game group and you can check it for yourself. Eventually you get to the 4th day and then you start to get the positives as a result of those actions. Start to get the positives that come back from it. Now, if you choose a different action, depending on what kind of results you get, these results may come in opposite order. So for example, with the workout thing, you may not feel so good at first. So you make the action, point number 1, of doing the workout. You made that commitment of doing the exercises, but you get the soreness, you get the fatigue, your body is not really ready for this. You're wondering if you should keep doing this. You're tired of listening to the trainer yell at you. You're tired of doing that extra 20 minutes in the class. You thought the class would be over after 30 minutes, but it's actually 50 minutes. You're not quite feeling it sometimes. You don't get to eat those chicken wings and those French fries that you like to eat because you're following the nutrition program. So that's kind of a downswing in the thoughts that you're thinking like, man, this is not so fun right now. But if you fight through that, then you get the upswing on the back end of this 2nd level of consequences. You follow me? But let's say that you were in good shape and then you decided, I'm not going to work out anymore. That was your decision. I'm not going to work out anymore. That was point number 1. And then in point number 2, at first you feel good, right? Because now you got all this extra time because you're not going to the gym anymore. You got maybe extra money because you're not paying for a gym membership. You're no longer investing in a trainer. Now you can eat the kind of foods that you want, which feels kind of good. That comfort food, right? That soul food, that food that gives you the itis when you get done eating it. You feel like taking a nap and that feels good in the moment, but eventually you got to pay for that. Eventually those invoices come in and you got to pay for that. Now your body doesn't look as good as it used to. Now you notice that you start to feel out of shape after you walk around the block, taking the dog out at the end of the night. Now you notice that you got a few extra pounds around your stomach or you got a little bit of extra flab on the back of your arms. Now you notice that you're not feeling as healthy as you used to. You're not thinking as clearly. You're not sleeping as easily. Your significant other tells you that you're snoring now that you didn't used to snore before. Now you got to pay for that. So now you're getting the downswing on the back end of point number 2. So again, depending on the decisions that you make, you may get the upswing and the downswing either first or second. Maybe they come and go. Maybe it's over and over. You get these waves of up and down, again, based on the actions that you take, the decisions that you make. And you won't always know for sure 100% how it's going to happen or when these things are going to occur. But understand that this is all part of the process of these levels of consequences based on the decisions that you decide to make. So assuming you do that thing from step one, there's a result from your actions, and maybe a down result before you get to the up result. For example, you pay money when you go to the grocery store to pay for your groceries, right? And you may not like the fact that you have to pay $80 for your groceries, because now that's $80 less that you have to your name. But eventually you're happy because you get to have food in your pantry when you wake up the next morning and you want something to eat. You notice that the cupboards are not bare. There's actually food in the fridge. So that's a good thing. So before you get the muscles and you lose the weight, before you get the muscles and lose the weight for eating that food, you have to go through the period of, damn, I don't get to eat from not eating that food. You don't get to go through the period of, let me back up. I jumped over top of myself here. Before you gain the muscles, you get the lost body fat, you lose the weight that you were trying to lose, you got to go through the period of not being able to eat the kind of foods that you wanted to eat. So it's a downswing first, then the upswing later. So if you're a student, for example, you may have to invest time in studying and practicing for your presentation and going to class, all things that you may not really enjoy doing, but you get an A on your test, or you get a higher GPA, or you become academically eligible to play your sport in the next semester. That's probably the thing that you wanted. So motivations and incentives all playing a role in these decisions that we're making. So these are all things that you need to factor into your decision-making process. So before you get your college degree or your certification, you're going to have to make these investments and give up the opportunity costs of maybe partying, socializing, hanging out with your friends to make sure you're studying and knowing your stuff so that you can pass those exams. So whenever you're planning anything or strategizing any long-term result that you're trying to achieve, you need to consider both types of results from your actions, both the investments that you're going to have to make and the times that you may not feel so great about those investments, and what is the end result you're actually going to get from that investment. And on the other side, how you may feel good about making a certain investment, but in the long run, you're going to regret that good feeling because it's going to, in the long run, cost you more than it actually cost you more than you actually paid up front. Point number 3, today's topic is the levels of consequences from any action that you take. What happens after that and what happens after that. The third level of consequences is, what is the meaning of the results that you get? Now, this one is a really important point because we completely determine what the meaning is for anything that happens to us. We can choose the meaning. We can make the meaning be a great thing. It could be a terrible thing. It could be, I'm glad I did this. It could be, I'm really pissed off that I did this. We can choose our meaning for anything. No one decides that something is positive for us or negative for us based on their objective opinion. We decide based on our own subjective opinion. These are the internal outcomes, what it means to us. Getting in shape. If you made this investment, again, going back to the example we've led with, if you made this investment to get yourself in great physical shape and you paid for the gym, and you paid for your workout gear, and you stop eating that food that you really love eating, what does that mean for you? Maybe it means for you that now you can play with your kids. Now it means you can join a certain sports team because you got in better shape and you're a better player. Now the coach wants you on the team. Maybe it seems your significant other is more interested in you all over again. Maybe it means your confidence is higher because you proved what you could do for yourself. So not your external confidence that people see, but your internal confidence is how you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror. The meaning that you give to a result paints with a very broad brush an image of what that whole experience actually meant. The meaning that you give to it will, in the long run, let's say 5 years later, you look back on that experience, you'll decide very quickly with a snap judgment, was that a good decision? Was that a bad decision? You'll forget all the details over time, but the broad brush is the meaning that you decide to give to the experience that you had. What is it going to mean to you in the long run? The person who joins the gym, but let's say they don't get in shape. They join the gym, but they didn't really make the hard commitment of actually showing up to the gym. Or they hired a trainer, but they kept canceling the sessions. Or they signed up for some class, but even though they paid for it, they weren't actually going to the classes. They bought all the workout gear, but they never actually used the gear. The tags are still on their clothes because they never actually went to the gym the way that they said they would. So you could join the gym and not get in shape and then paint the whole thing as a waste of time and see, you already know the gym is a scam. No, working out is a waste of time. I put all this money into it. I didn't get anything out of it. I'm just a person who doesn't follow through, so I'm never going to do that again. So that meaning that you give to it, which is subjective, is not objective, is not neutral, it's just based on how you decide to feel about it, and the meaning you decide to give to it could lead you to never taking those actions ever again, even though those actions could help you. Or the meaning that you give something, man, I stopped working out. I start eating food I wasn't supposed to eat. Now I'm 30 pounds overweight. Now I can't play my sport anymore. Now I don't feel as good as I used to. Now my confidence is down. Put the meaning that you put on that could make you never make that bad mistake ever again either. So again, these meanings, you completely control them. It can control how you behave for the rest of your life. It can control how you behave moving forward. It can control how you communicate with other people about eating the wrong foods, about joining the gym, about following through on their commitments. So you notice how the meanings that we give to things, if you really think about this and you look at your own life and look at your own experiences, maybe something that you're going through right now, the meaning that you give to it determines how you're going to behave, whether you're going to keep working on that thing, stop doing that thing, whether you're going to tell other people about that thing, how you feel about yourself on a daily basis, and it can start to bleed into other areas of your life. If the confidence that you've gained from getting in shape starts making you feel better physically, maybe you'll do better work at your job. And your job is not being an athlete. You'll do a lot better work at your job. Maybe you'll be a lot better with your spouse or with your friends or with your kids simply because you feel better physically. It has nothing to do with the gym specifically, but it bleeds into other areas of your life. And it can work the same in reverse. If you're not working out and your body starts feeling worse and your energy lowers, it can hurt your performance at work. It can hurt your performance when you're dealing with your kids. It can hurt how you're dealing with your significant other. It can hurt the way that you're talking to your friends. So all of these things bleed into other areas of your life. So that's why it's really important for you to pay attention to the meaning you attach to decisions, or outcomes rather, which are based on the actions that you take, which are based on the decisions that you make. So the meaning paints with a very broad brush an image of what the whole experience meant to you. And the person who doesn't get in shape could say is a negative thing. The person who does get in shape say is a great thing. Two movies on the exact same screen. So you can swap out the gym for anything that you've ever done in your life in which you reached success, or you can swap out that gym getting in shape example that we've been using here with anything that you've done in your life and it didn't work and it came up short. Notice how we often use the outcome of a situation to decide what the whole thing meant. We usually don't put a meaning on something until we're pretty sure what the outcome is. And the thing about outcomes is you can't fail until you quit, as the cliche goes. So if you quit something, usually you're going to put an outcome on that or a meaning on that that says it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth the time. This was a waste. Very rarely does somebody quit on something before they've completed it and say, that was a great thing. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I went through that experience. Usually they say, well, I shouldn't have did that. It was a waste, or I did it. I didn't get anything out of it, or they blame themselves. They either blame the situation, maybe they blame the tools, maybe they blame the people involved, or they blame themselves. But usually it's not a positive meaning that they put to that thing when they don't complete it to its fruition, to its full fruition. When you complete something to success, usually we have some positive result that we give to it, some positive meaning that we give to it because of the positive result, rather, if I say that properly. So notice that the outcomes, look at your own life again, look at the meanings that you put on certain situations. And maybe if and when you notice that other people put completely different meanings on going through the exact same situations that you've gone through, how usually that meaning is based on what result you and whomever else received as a result of the actions that they took. So let's recap today's topic, which is the levels of consequences. This is a principle that, again, I gleaned from reading the book Principles by Ray Dalio. There's 3 levels to the actions that you take and how they paint the way that you think about situations, looking back on them and when you're going through them. Number 1 is the thing that you have to do. First consequence of anything is you actually have to take the action, which may require time, energy, attention, focus, and probably money. And opportunity cost itself is always going to be money, because whatever you're doing one thing, that means you can't make money doing another thing because you're not doing it. And opportunity cost is also, when it comes to your energy, your time, your physical person, you can only commit to doing one thing at one time with your physical body. So the opportunity cost is everything else that you're not doing. Point number 2, the results that you get. And the results, again, the first result may be whatever you had to give up in order to do that thing, such as your time, such as your money, such as energy. But then the other result, what are you actually going to get because of that investment that you're making? So that's why you got to be wise with your investments. You make a wise investment, you know that even though you had to give something up front, you're going to get something good on the back end. But also, if you make unwise investments, maybe you gain something up front and you still had to give something up on the back end. So you're always going to have to pay back whatever it is whatever investment you made up front. There's going to be a payback for it later on, whether it's something you get or something that you give. Point number 3, what do these results mean to you? These are the internal outcomes. What is the meaning that you will attach to the results that you receive? And again, these are completely subjective. So just because you received a certain outcome and you feel a certain way about it doesn't mean anybody else feels that way about it. That's just the meaning that you decided to attach to it. And you can change the meaning that you've attached to any outcome of your life, even something that's already happened, at any time that you want. That's just a change in the way that you think about a situation. And if you look through the mindset, the discipline, the mental toughness categories in the game group membership area for this show, the material from this show, I give you a ton of different ways in which you can do that. So again, go into the category section, you go into the category of mental toughness, category of discipline, category of confidence, of focus. All of these things can help you change the way that you attach meaning to any situation that you're either going through right now, you plan on going through in the future, or that you already have gone through in the past. So you want to know how to get into the game group, just keep listening. I'll tell you, work on your game. Dre all day.